It's 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Joe Abah, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining LMC, Leading Nigerians Conversation. This is, you'll be our very first guest, and it's actually a pleasure to have you launch this platform. My question to you is, you have been, we are going to touch on, quite a range of topics. But what has impressed me for so many months is how you've been able to connect with. You won't mind me saying this, that you are a son of the 60s. How have you been able to connect with the millennia, with the youth, Nigerian youth? How have you been able to connect with them?
I actually haven't made any specific efforts to connect with the youth. I've just been myself. I think we should all make an effort to be rounded. You can't be stuck in one aspect of life. So I'm interested in things that are much older than the 60s. I'm interested in things of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. And so, while I can play music from the 50s and 60s and even the 20s and 30s, I also play Shaku Shaku from 2018. So it depends on what catches my interest. So I actually haven't gone out of my way specifically to engage with the youth. I've just been myself, and of course I'm a father, so I have this tendency to want to give advice so that people can avoid some of the difficulties that one has growing up. And I'm also a teacher, so again, there's a natural tendency to want to teach people how to do things because it's what I do in my spare time. So I guess it's a combination of all those things. Yeah, those things.
Okay, let me ask you, why is it difficult for Nigerian leaders to connect?
I think simply because they don't prioritize it. They don't make enough of an effort to do so. I think a lot of people don't actually realize how busy leaders are. A lot of people in leading positions are very, very, very busy. Most of them work 18 hours a day on average. And so, even when I was running a government office, I didn't always connect from day one because I needed to spend some time reorganizing the organization I was running and empowering people to be able to run it with minimal interference from me. And that gave me the freedom to then go out and engage publicly. So a lot of people are actually very, very busy. A lot haven't made that effort to give themselves the time to explain what they do and answer questions to the public. So I think it's and many don't actually realize that communicating what they're doing is actually an integral part of the job. So many people feel, oh, I just need to do the job, and once I do it, the results will speak for themselves. But it doesn't quite work like that. The misinformation can actually do far more damage to you than any change you think you are pursuing. So I think it's vitally important that people take out time and treat information and connecting with the public as an integral part of the job that they do.
Okay. One of the main items, or one of the videos that have gone viral over the last couple of days has been the IG Idris, now infamous transmission speech. I read the tweet, and you actually believe he has some medical. He needs attention. He needs medical attention. However, a majority of Nigerians have gone round, and some have poked fun, some have actually even made bold um, remarks that the video might have been doctored. What is your take on this?
Well, my take on it is that majority of Nigerians are not medical experts, and so they'll form a view that they want to form. My view was actually informed by a couple of professors of neurology who sent me a
Mm,
private message but didn't want to be identified, who said, looking at that video, if he was genuine, they think he may have suffered some sort of a medical episode, maybe some sort of a minor stroke that has led to dyslexia,
mm,
or that is manifesting as dyslexia. Many people would, of course, say, "Oh, how could he have been dyslexic? He couldn't have been. How would he have passed all his exams before now?" But dyslexia is not only from birth. It can actually be acquired as a result of a medical episode. But I have no way of knowing whether that is the case, because even the medical experts that gave the opinion did say that they have not examined him and could not really tell. So this was only a conjecture based on what was said in the video. But my worry is that looking at the video or the series of videos that came out, I'm concerned that those are not the actions of somebody who is somebody who doesn't have any issues, because you and
mm,
I know that even if a speech was written for you that you are struggling with,
mm.
you will actually fold the speech and make a joke out of it and say, "Look, I can't read this. I don't understand what they wrote for me," and
Correct.
everybody will laugh about it, and you speak off the cuff. That is what most normal people would do. So for you to be stuck on two or three particular words for like 3 or 4 minutes doesn't suggest to me that that is totally normal.
Mm,
It could or could not be dyslexia. It could be something else called parallalia. It could be emotional stress. It
mm,
could be whatever it is. But that action in that video didn't seem to me to be normal of somebody who has trained in law,
mm.
somebody who is used to public speaking and has spoken several times at various events, both off the cuff and reading a speech, and has done so creditably well. Something happened, in my view. I don't know what it is that happened, but something did.
Are you worried that Nigerians trivialize important or serious issues?
No, look, Jide, the IG is not my favorite person, and is not the favorite person of many Nigerians. I think I don't actually think he's terribly good at his job.
Mm,
Um, I think I don't like the way he cleverly killed the end SARS agitation by claiming to set up a committee to look into it, and then that was the end of it. Nobody heard about it again. I was a bit surprised that, according to Mr. President, he abandoned his duty post in Benue within 24 hours. I've heard the usual announcements of taking checkpoints off the streets, which never happened. Um, I see a lot of instances where a number of people who are demonstrating and protesting within the law have been stopped from protesting. The Bring Back Our Girls group is a good example of that. So there are many things that I am not enamored of with the current IG. And so what happens is, when you have been unlikable to a number of people, they are unlikely to be sympathetic when anything happens to you. So you can't actually blame people who would ascribe what has happened in that video to incompetence and say, well, he's done all these other things incompetently. He was not able to parade in sequence with other people, so he's completely incompetent. Others will take that further to say he's illiterate and cannot read, which of course you and I know is not true. So, somebody put it quite nicely when he said, look, the IG has caused a number of people a lot of inconvenience and even pain, and it is time to pay him back in his own coins. So that's the way a number of people looked at it. So I'm not blaming Nigerians for that. I can understand where they're coming from, actually.
Ayo Aderibigbe that joined us has suggested that we need to take a keen look at the health and educational sectors.
I agree with that completely because those two sectors, particularly education, is the crux of our matter. If you ask me, as a development professional, I know how dangerous it is to think there's any silver bullet to underdevelopment. But I think of all the various bullets, if there is one, it has to be education, because poor education even affects healthcare. So if you have a poorly trained doctor or a poorly trained nurse, it's actually quite dangerous. So you can argue that without a healthy population, you also can't go to school. But I think education is the key issue, and for me, the major problem with our education system is actually corruption. Believe it or not.
If you happen to be the president of Nigeria, let's just
God forbid.
God forbid. Why do you have to say God forbid?
Because I've worked with two presidents and one prime minister at close quarters. Many people think everybody should want power, but I think if you look at it at very close quarters, you know that it is not for everybody. The decisions you have to make, the pressures you are under constantly, it is not a job everybody wants to do, and it's perfectly fine to be happy in what you do.
What qualities should a Nigerian leader possess?
A Nigerian leader should be competent, and I believe have above average intelligence.
Aren't you competent and have an above average intelligence?
Above average intelligence, yes.
Aren't you? No, I'm asking you directly. You are competent and definitely above average intelligence.
Oh, it is not everybody that is competent and has above average intelligence that can be a good leader. It is not. There are very many competent footballers who have above average intelligence. It doesn't mean they can be president. It is not everybody who can go on to be a George Weah, who is a very good footballer, very competent at what he does, has above average intelligence, went and furthered his education, and is now president of Liberia. Not everybody can do that.
Why have we been living in the Nigeria has the potential for so many years?
Because we produce our leaders. Our leaders are not going to drop from Mars, and we're not going to import leaders from another country. So the environment produces the leader that leads that environment. And many people don't like it when I say this, but every single leader that I know have tried within their own capacity to do what they can for the country. The problem we have is the structure and the system that we run. That is essentially the problem. So even the best leader is still at the mercy of the National Assembly, still at the mercy of the party, is still at the mercy of a system where corruption and incompetence is ingrained within the system. And so And so, no matter who you get, that's why some of us don't subscribe to being politically partisan, because it doesn't matter who you get, the system in which they will operate makes it very, very difficult for them to achieve anything. And that's why even President Obasanjo, that is seen as perhaps one of the better leaders we've had since we've come back to democratic rule, have had to, if you like, bend a number of rules and bully his way through a number of things to get anything done. That is the challenge of the system we've designed for ourselves. Well,
Wow.
first of all, Dino Melaye is a senator of the Federal Republic. He has been elected, I believe, twice or three times by his people. His recall was not successful, or the attempt to recall him was not successful. And so, my view has always been that if we practice a democracy, if it is Dino Melaye that the people want, it is Dino Melaye the people should get. If it is the village idiot or the thief or the holy man or the monk, whoever, that is the beauty of democracy. We can't have everybody behave the same way. If his people consistently choose to elect him, he has every right to represent them.
How does Nigeria end up getting or having so many incompetent politicians elected? What is the root of that matter?
How do you who do you suggest is incompetent? Because if you're talking about the National Assembly,
Yeah.
competence as a legislator means championing a number of bills and a number of causes. It means giving good representation to your people. Um, you know, whether you then record songs and videos is another matter. But you know, your competence as a legislator is, can you give your people good representation, and are you adding value to the lawmaking process? That is really what counts.
Okay. Are the people electing the right people? Are Nigerians? Let me put it this way: are the right people contesting? Because you just made a point that, oh, God forbid, you won't contest. So, are the right people contesting for Nigerians to be able to choose from?
I don't know whether we will need to define the term the right people. The issue is that Nigerians are voting for the people that the parties put before them. And so this is where the problem comes from. In order for me to contest for any position through the party, I have to be able to afford a nomination form of, I don't know, minimum of 5 million naira for certain positions. If I have to get that money through my hard work and my savings, then I have to think very carefully whether that is what I want to spend my money on. Okay, so there's that first hurdle. Then I need to go through the delegate system, and the delegates of the party are current and former office holders, party officials, and all of those things. And I think Senator Shehu Sani was quite honest when he talked
Hmm.
about the corruption in the delegate system recently, that you basically have to give them money to vote for you. So
Mm-hmm.
again, as a single hardworking individual, where am I going to get the money to give to all the delegates to even transport them to the conference, to the convention ground where they are
Hmm.
going to vote? So if I don't have that money on my own, then I have to be beholden to somebody else that has that money, who would give me conditions for which they would be able to release the money to get the delegates. And so there's that process of buying the delegates, and so it's whoever has the most money. The delegates don't care about your competence. They don't care about your track record. They want whoever gives them the most money, and whoever the godfather of the party says they should vote for is who they should vote. So who they will vote for. So you see that competence doesn't come into the issue at all. So whoever is emerging from the 2 or 3 parties are the people put in front of Nigerians to choose from. And so until we get to a position where I can say I want to run for local government chairman, or I want to run for a member of House of Reps or the Senate, and I don't have to buy a nomination form from anybody, and I don't have to pay any delegate. I can simply go in front of Nigerians, go on social media, go around the streets and say, I want to run, vote for me, please. And people can maybe crowdsource funding for me. Until we get to that position, it is a waste of time. It's a waste of my time saying I want to run through any party platform. I will not do that. And my answer is yes. I think Nigerians are stuck, and that's why I say, with the current system, we've entered what people call a one chance vehicle that has no brakes. So I think we're stuck, and I think the solution is to make constitutional review the election issue for 2019. It should be a manifesto item that we should give to every single party. So if you want our vote, you must commit to amending the constitution. Let me start with the issue of strikes, because I think that is a burning issue at the moment. And to say that I am vehemently against all strikes by all health workers. I think it is unfortunate that people who are sworn on oath to protect lives will abandon those lives to die because of industrial issues. Having said that, I think the federal government has not been as professional as it could be, because what tends to happen is the federal government gives in to doctors today. The Johesu health workers will say, "Oh, you've given it in to doctors. We too want this privilege you've given them," and they will go on strike. And government will listen to Johesu, and then the doctors will say, "Oh, you've closed the gap between us. We are not the same," and they too will go on strike, and the cycle goes on and on. So I think we need to be in a position where we actually renegotiate the contracts between government and health workers once and for all. But that is not even what I would do. What I would do is to scale back the federal government's involvement in directly managing healthcare. So at the moment we employ everybody, which means they can all go on strike at the same time. You are aware that in the UK the hospitals are run by health trusts, and so if you work for a particular health trust and you're not happy with what you're paid there, you apply for a job in another health trust. And if there's to be any strike, it's limited to that particular health trust. You can't bring the entire health system of the country to a standstill. And what that also means is that, if you have particular health trusts that are well run, patients will go there more, and they will avoid those ones where people are dying from operations, the wards are dirty, and there's no equipment. So I think the federal government needs to pull back from direct management of health facilities and devolve it down the line. Now, because the federal government wants total control of everything, it also has to fund everything totally, which it cannot afford to do. So, we're currently agitating that the 1% of the Consolidated Revenue Fund in the Health Act should be put into the 2018 budget. And that has taken, I don't know, something like 3 years. And we're still fighting that it should go into the 2018 budget. But what many people don't realize is that even if we were to go into the 2018 budget, it only represents $1 per Nigerian. $1. That's all it means towards our healthcare. So I think it needs a major rethink in our system. I think the federal government is only budgeting in the region of about 5% of our budget towards healthcare. Having said that, health is on the concurrent list, so we mustn't forget the provisions that the state governments are making, that the federal governments are making. But the difficulty with even calculating the investment made by state and local governments is that those investments tend to relate to tertiary healthcare, not primary healthcare. So a governor would
Mm,
rather build a so-called ultra-modern, world-class hospital.
mm,
They will not actually focus on treating malaria and dysentery in the villages and in the rural areas. So a lot of the investment is in tertiary healthcare because it's the flagship project, the White Elephant project, and the project
mm.
through which the governor can actually make money by procurement. So there's no money to be made in having a primary healthcare center and giving malaria drugs to people.
What would be the singular thing you would advise the youths to do with their ability to choose a leader? What singular advice would you give them?
Well, you need to be in the game to win the game, and
Mm,
therefore the singular advice would be go and register to vote. Make sure you have the ability to vote. So the ability to vote comes with having your permanent voters card, and try and organize among yourselves to articulate the issues you want from all the parties.
mm,
Don't just brigade yourself into a particular party and be trading insults between APC and PDP. That is
mm.
actually silly in my view. Try and identify those issues that affect you as young persons and demand them of every single party that wants your votes.
Do you actually believe that a youth that doesn't have the financial muscle can contest and win an election in Nigeria?
At the moment, I don't believe that they can. Because, like I told you, you need to raise quite a large amount of money to even be able to get the nomination form from the party, and you need to emerge through the delegate system. So perhaps the only way is if the party agrees to give maybe a quota to the youth. Maybe that's the only way. Maybe those
Wow.
who have been fighting for who've been fighting for greater representation of the youth. Maybe that's what they're fighting for, that the party allocates a particular quota to them, in the same way as maybe you could allocate a quota to women. That's probably the only way, in my view. But I'm not a politician, I don't know.
It sounds depressing. How do Nigerians that have goals and the vision of achieving the potential that Nigeria has? We have the mineral resources, we have the natural resources. Nigerians all over the world are achieving great stuff, but Nigeria as a nation hasn't been able to achieve, you know, its status as the giant of Africa. In my honest opinion, it all sounds depressing. Where do we go from here?
No, I wouldn't paint such a bleak picture. I think we are doing well on a number of areas. Um, development is a process, and you cannot wish away your past. Your past helps to condition your future, and you can't wish that away. We've had something like 30 years of military rule. We've had a civil war, which many countries may not actually have recovered from. We've now had something like 19 years unbroken democratic rule for the first time in our lives. I think by next year it will be 20 years of unbroken democratic rule. So,
So
in
are we
terms
going to
of
celebrate that?
democracy, sorry.
Are we going to celebrate? Are we going to celebrate that? Because as soon as you mentioned next year, it's going to be 20 years. I can just imagine, having holidays, public holidays, and celebration of 20 years of unbroken democracy. Is this something to be? My question would be: is it because we haven't, we've been able to sustain that length of democracy or democratic rule that is something is something to be celebrated, or what have we really achieved within the 20 years?
Why don't you look at it the other way? What if we didn't have 20 years of unbroken democratic rule? What if we've had two coups since 1999? Would you be asking the same question? I think it's an absolutely critical circumstance that we don't need, we shouldn't wish away. Like I said, in the same way as we've been affected by more than 30 years of military rule, and that 30 years is still affecting us in our minds till tomorrow.
Mm,
It's still affecting the way our police behave. It's still affecting our approach to human rights. It's still affecting our approach to freedom of speech. So you can't wish it away. In the same way, 20 years of unbroken democracy is beginning to shape the way we think. We are now beginning to feel free to be able to challenge our politicians and call them out on social media and organize and demand change through protests, people being protesting every single day for a particular issue. These are not trivial things at all. They're not trivial things. Yes, we're not yet where we want to get to, but we must at the same time recognize the progress that is being made. That is not to say that we can't move faster on a number of things. Of course we can, and we should continue to demand that we do so. But I think Nigerians need to move to a position where they're saying, well done for this one, but we want you to do more and we want you to do faster, rather than the usual Nigeria thing of yes, but. Everything that a Nigerian says is yes, but. And there's
mm.
always a but, and they always dismiss the little progress that has been made. I don't think that is helpful, actually, in my view.
Dr. Joe, I must really, really commend you for your optimism. It is extremely refreshing. It's very, very refreshing, and I think I think I'm a convert. I think I'm a convert. We are well, for those joining us. We have been chatting with Dr. Joe Abah. He was the former DG of BPSR. Well, I really mean to ask you this: if there was one thing you are proud of when you were the DG, what would that thing be?
I think it will be what you asked me first, which is being able to connect to the public,
Mm,
being able to ask the public what it is they want me to focus on, and designing my work plan such that I'm able to focus on those things, and people are able to say yes, it is not perfect yet, but we can see the effort that you made, and we appreciate that effort. Of course, being
mm.
able to leave government on my own terms was a major achievement for me, and being able to live with my head held high is something that many people are not able to do. So I'm quite proud of all of those things.
Dr. Joe, you just mentioned the police. What is your take on state police and the overbearing attitude of SARS?
Um, well, first of all, I struggled with the issue of state police, just like everybody else did, because I always felt that the governors are already too powerful. In fact, I often say that the governors are more powerful than the president in terms of the absence of checks and balances to constrain them. Because in a state, the government basically controls the state house of assembly, virtually controls the judiciary. I don't know of any judiciary in any state that will rule against the governor. And so, you have control of the three arms of government as a governor, and so also giving them control over policing is something that will worry a lot of people, and that worried me for a long time, actually. But I try to retain my intellectual purity, and in the same, and I'm somebody that believes in devolution of powers. And I found myself struggling between arguing that we should devolve power in health, we should devolve power in education, but we should hold on to centralization in policing. It didn't make any sense to me if I reflect on it deeply. And so I now believe that we should go for state policing. The issue is what checks and balances can we put in place to constrain abuse. I don't have all the answers yet. It could be that there are aspects of it that we keep central, and there are aspects that we keep at the state level in control of the governor, or that there are certain crimes, like in the US, that are federal crimes, and there are some that are state crimes. It could be that we have an organization similar to, say, the FBI that can still intervene even at state level. It could be that the police doesn't. It could be that the police reports to maybe the judiciary or reports to the State House of Assembly. I don't know the answer yet.
Okay.
But we need to think through it. But as a principle, I think we need to devolve policing to state and community levels. Because I remember when I was growing up, the local policeman knew everybody. He knew all of us when we go to play football. He knew the people from bad families. He knew the kids that were likely to go wrong, and therefore had more intelligence around the community. That we've lost by over centralizing everything now.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Well, we're about to wrap up the show, but there's a segment that LMC asks guests when they come on, and you have the honor and the privilege to be the first one to answer these questions. There are two. A question will have two answers, and you have 5 seconds to just tell us your answer. Are you set? Are you ready to go?
The only caveat is I'm a lawyer, and I'm always nervous about only 2 options. As you know, I'm also an academic, so there are always shades of gray, but I will try.
Let's go for it. Beauty or brain?
You see, this is the problem. Brain. I'll go for brain.
Brain. Arsenal or Enugu Rangers?
Arsenal.
Fela or Michael Jackson?
Fela every day long.
Eba or spaghetti?
Spaghetti, because I don't eat swallow.
Okay. Your thousands of guests on Twitter would hear that for the first time. You don't eat swallow. Dr. Abah doesn't eat swallow. Okay. UK or Abuja?
Abuja.
Lupita or Kate Henshaw?
Kate Henshaw. She's my very good friend. Kate Henshaw every time.
Talk or write?
Right.
Bollywood or Nollywood?
Nollywood.
Afrobeat or pop music?
Afrobeat.
Wizkid or Davido?
I would say in terms of content, I'll say Davido.
In terms of content.
Yeah.
That's a topic for another day, because I have strong views on content, on Afrobeats. Beautiful beats, but the content.
Yeah.
And lastly, Royal Wedding or FA Cup final?
FA Cup final.
FA Cup final.
But I think the royal wedding is very interesting, because for the first time we have a monarchy that is accepting somebody who is a divorcee, who is from a broken home, who is black. Forget those that say mixed race. She's black. Who is an immigrant because she's American. So it's a very, very interesting combination, and I look forward to the wedding.
Dr. Joe Abah, as usual, you have been fantastic. We hope to have you again. This is Leading Nigerians Conversation, LMC. Please subscribe, Dr. Joe Abah, on Twitter. And follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as well. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for launching LNC. We hope to have you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you.
God bless Nigeria.
God bless Nigeria. Thank you.